Everyone feared her hunger, but I gave her my blood, and she swore loyalty to me alone. The offering, the warning klaxons of Hemera Station wailed through the laboratory module, pulling Dr. Lydia Winters from her microscope with a startled jerk. The emergency lights cast everything in pulsing crimson, turning the pristine white surfaces into something that resembled the inside of a beating heart. Warning: unscheduled docking in progress. Medical emergency protocol activated, announced the station's AI, its synthesized voice unnervingly calm amid the chaos. Lydia's hands moved instinctively to secure her samples, rare bacterial cultures, from Proxima Centauri b that would be impossible to replace. "Status report, Hemera," she demanded, pushing a stray lock of auburn hair from her face. "Voidwalker, diplomatic vessel requesting emergency medical assistance. ETA to docking bay, 3 minutes. The mention of Voidwalkers sent a chill through Lydia's spine. In the 8 months since humanity had made first contact with the enigmatic species, interactions had been strictly regulated through carefully orchestrated diplomatic channels. The Voidwalkers shared technological marvels beyond human comprehension, but remained intensely private about their biology, a fact that drove Lydia, as Hemera's lead xenobiologist, to distraction. "Reason for medical emergency?" she asked, already moving toward her emergency kit. "Unknown. Voidwalker transmission indicates critical biological failure." Lydia's heart rate accelerated. This could be the opportunity she'd been waiting for, chance to finally observe Voidwalker physiology up close. Yet the scientist in her was immediately tempered by concern. Whatever had driven the notoriously self-sufficient aliens to seek human help had to be dire. She grabbed her medical scanner and sprinted toward the docking bay, dodging station personnel who were scrambling to implement emergency protocols. Director Hartman's voice crackled over her comm unit. "Dr. Winters, report to docking bay 3 immediately. Your expertise is required." "Already on my way," she replied, breathless. The massive pressure doors of docking bay 3 parted with a hydraulic hiss, revealing the sleek obsidian hull of the Voidwalker vessel. Unlike the utilitarian human ships, the alien craft seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, its surface rippling like liquid shadow. The vessel's entry ramp descended, and, Lydia's breath caught in her throat, 3 Voidwalkers emerged, tall, humanoid figures with skin that typically shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. But the one in the center was different. Supported by 2 companions, this Voidwalker's skin had dulled to an ashen gray, the normally vibrant geometric patterns beneath the surface flickering weakly like dying stars. "Human healer," one of the supporting Voidwalkers addressed Lydia, their voice a melodic, multi-toned sound that seemed to bypass her ears and resonate. Directly in her mind, "We require immediate assistance for Nyx. Our life-sustaining nectar has been contaminated." Lydia stepped forward, medical scanner already whirring. "I'm Dr. Lydia Winters, xenobiologist. What happened?" "Environmental system failure, the second," Voidwalker replied. "All reserves corrupted. Nyx has been without proper sustenance for 52 of your Earth hours." Lydia gestured toward the medical bay. "Bring her this way. How long until you can get uncorrupted supplies?" "The nearest vessel with compatible reserves is 76 hours away." The gravity of the situation hit Lydia like a physical blow. She had studied what little data was available on Voidwalkers. Their biology required regular infusions of a specialized substance they called stellar nectar, a luminous fluid that human scientists had only glimpsed in secured diplomatic meetings. In the medical bay, Lydia watched as the Voidwalkers gently placed Nyx on the diagnostic bed. Immediately, the medical sensors began to record data, but what they revealed made Lydia's stomach knot with dread. "Her cellular cohesion is degrading at an alarming rate," she murmured, studying the holographic display. Without the nectar, Nyx will dissipate," one of the companions confirmed. "The physical form will lose integrity." Lydia's scientific mind raced through possibilities. "Is there any compatible substitute? Something we could synthesize until your supplies arrive?" The Voidwalkers exchanged glances, a rare display of emotion for their normally impassive species. The nectar was developed as a substitute, the taller Voidwalker said reluctantly. A substitute for what we once consumed. Nyx's eyes fluttered open, mesmerizing silver irises now clouded with pain. Orion, Lyra, enough, she whispered, her voice barely audible. The human deserves truth if I am to die here. You are not going to die? Lydia said firmly, though the reading suggested otherwise. Nyx fixed her gaze on Lydia, and despite the alien's weakened state, there was an intensity that made Lydia feel as though Nyx was peering into her soul. The nectar, artificial version of living essence, Nyx managed between labored breaths. Before we evolved, we required life energy from other beings. Understanding dawned on Lydia with shocking clarity. You're saying your species once consumed the life force of others, and the nectar is a synthetic replacement? Yes, Orion confirmed, straightening to his full height. Our ancestors fed on the vital essence of other species. The nectar was created to free us from that dependency, to allow peaceful contact with other civilizations. Lydia looked at the medical readings again. Without intervention, Nyx would not survive another hour, let alone the 76 hours until supplies arrived. The scientist in her was already formulating hypotheses, making connections that had eluded researchers for months. If the nectar is a synthetic substitute for life essence, she said slowly, then theoretically the original substance would work in its place. We abandoned that practice millennia ago, Lyra protested. We do not take from other beings anymore. But I could give freely, Lydia countered, the idea crystallizing in her mind with sudden certainty. She looked at Nyx, whose luminescence was fading by the minute. Would human essence be compatible? Unknown, Orion replied. The nectar was specifically created to replace what we once took. Direct consumption of another species' life. Force is unpredictable at best, potentially fatal at worst for both parties. Lydia made her decision. Rolling up the sleeve of her laboratory coat, she approached Nyx's bedside. I'm offering mine, freely given, with full consent. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the medical bay's equipment seemed to quiet in response to her declaration. You cannot understand what you offer, Lyra said, her melodic voice tinged with disbelief. I understand that she'll die without it, Lydia replied firmly. I understand that I'm a scientist facing an unprecedented situation with a solution that, while risky, is logical. And I understand that if our positions were reversed, I would hope for the same compassion. She extended her bare wrist toward Nyx. Take what you need to survive. That's an order from your doctor. Nyx's silver eyes widened, a flicker of luminescence, returning to her ashen features. You would risk yourself for me? For science, for diplomacy, for basic decency? Take your pick, Lydia said with a gentle smile. Now, before I change my mind or Director Hartman bursts in here and stops us. With trembling fingers, Nyx reached for Lydia's offered wrist. The touch sent an immediate chill up Lydia's arm, like plunging into Arctic waters. But what happened next defied all scientific explanation. As Nyx drew essence from Lydia, the connection between them became more than physical. Lydia gasped as her consciousness expanded, fragmenting into kaleidoscopic visions. Vast nebulae seen from within, the birth and death of stars experienced as personal memories, civilizations rising and falling across countless worlds. The medical bay's systems erupted with alerts as energy readings spiked off the charts. Nyx's skin blazed with renewed luminescence, patterns shifting beneath the surface in configurations neither Orion nor Lyra had ever witnessed. Impossible, Orion whispered, backing away as waves of energy began radiating from Nyx's body. Human essence should be incompatible with our physiology. The nectar was designed specifically because direct consumption was too dangerous. Lydia barely heard him. The moment Nyx had begun feeding, their minds had connected in ways that transcended language. Through this bond, Lydia experienced fragments of Nyx's memories, crystalline cities suspended between dimensions, millennia of isolation, and secrets buried so deeply that even the Voidwalkers themselves had forgotten them. Lydia. Nyx gasped, finally releasing her wrist. Her voice had taken on a resonant quality that seemed to echo through both air and thought. "What have you done to me?" The small wound on Lydia's wrist sealed instantly, leaving behind a faint pattern of iridescent, scarring in geometric shapes that matched the newly brightened patterns on Nyx's skin. Lydia stared at it, then at Nyx, whose transformation continued before their eyes. The Voidwalker now hovered several inches above the diagnostic bed, enveloped in swirling energy that pulsed in perfect synchronization with Lydia's heartbeat. The patterns beneath Nyx's skin had rearranged themselves into ancient configurations that caused both Orion and Lyra to drop to their knees in apparent reverence. "The primal patterns," Lyra whispered, "but they were lost eons ago when we transitioned to the Nectar." The medical bay doors slid open as Director Hartman entered, flanked by security officers. They froze at the sight before them. Nyx suspended, in midair, radiating enough energy to register on every sensor in the station, while Lydia stood transfixed, her eyes reflecting the same luminescence that now emanated from the Voidwalker. "Dr. Winters," Hartman's voice cut through the moment, like a blade. "Would you care to explain why our sensors are detecting enough energy to power the station for a year coming from this room?" Before Lydia could respond, the energy surrounding Nyx expanded to envelop her as well. The connection between them deepened, and suddenly Lydia understood what was happening, the knowledge flowing through their newly formed bond. "The Nectar wasn't created to free them from dependency," she said, the words coming from a place of shared consciousness. "It was designed to suppress their true nature, to lock away abilities that someone or something feared." Nyx's eyes met Lydia's, silver now streaked with hints of human hazel. "Our entire existence has been built on a deception," she said, her voice carrying both wonder and sorrow. "We were meant to be so much more than what we became." As the energy around them began to stabilize, forming intricate patterns that mirrored the markings on both their skin, Lydia felt a profound sense of purpose take root in her mind, not entirely her own, yet not foreign either. Something new, born of their unexpected bond. "Director?" she said, turning to face Hartman with newfound confidence. "I believe we've just rewritten the future of human Voidwalker relations." The director glanced from Lydia to Nyx, then to the stunned Voidwalkers still kneeling on the floor. "I'm listening, Doctor," she said cautiously. "But this had better be good." Little did any of them realize that across the galaxy, every Voidwalker had just felt an awakening stir within their being, the first tremors of a transformation that would reshape the cosmos itself. Resonance Commander Julian Blackwood had witnessed many unusual events during his 15 years aboard space stations. Meteor showers that defied physics, first contact situations that rewrote diplomatic protocols, even a mysterious cosmic anomaly that had temporarily reversed the flow of time in a contained sector. But nothing had prepared him for the sight before him now. The Hemera Station's main observation deck had been hastily converted into a makeshift research center, its reinforced windows now covered with holographic displays showing real-time data of the phenomenon occurring at its center. Dr. Lydia Winters and the Voidwalker called Nyx, floating 6 inches off the ground in perfect synchronized movement, their bodies emanating pulses of energy that matched wavelength for wavelength. "How long have they been like this?" Julian asked, his voice tight with concern. As chief of security, everything unusual was ultimately his responsibility, and this situation went far beyond unusual. Dr. Emery Kotri, the station's xenoarchaeologist, glanced up from her instruments. Dark circles under her eyes testified to the sleepless night she'd spent monitoring the pair. 8 hours, 17 minutes since the initial bond formed. The energy output has stabilized, but the neural synchronization is still deepening. Julian approached the shimmering field that surrounded Lydia and Nyx. Within it, the human and Voidwalker moved in perfect harmony, like dancers following choreography only they could hear. Both were marked with identical geometric patterns, luminescent on Nyx's obsidian skin, iridescent scarring on Lydia's. "And you're certain they're not in danger?" he asked, fighting the urge to reach through the field and pull Lydia out. She had been under his protection since her arrival on Hemera 3 years ago. The thought of losing her to some alien phenomenon twisted his gut. "Their vital signs are stronger than ever," Emery replied, gesturing to a nearby display. "Lydia's cellular regeneration has increased by 300%, and Nyx's biological degradation has completely reversed. Whatever's happening, it's not harming them physically." Julian's gaze shifted to the other two Voidwalkers, Orion and Lyra, who stood in silent observation several feet away. Their typically impassive faces betrayed hints of emotion, confusion, awe, and something that looked unsettlingly like fear. "You've never seen anything like this before, have you?" He addressed them directly. Orion's silver eyes flicked toward Julian. This should not be possible. The nectar was specifically engineered to prevent such bonds from forming. "Engineered by whom?" Julian pressed. A look passed between the two Voidwalkers, a silent communication that made Julian's security instincts prickle. "By our ancestors," Lyra finally answered. "After the Great Transition, 10,000 years ago." "And what exactly was this Great Transition?" Emery interjected. Her archaeological curiosity piqued. Before either Voidwalker could respond, the energy field surrounding Lydia and Nyx pulsed dramatically, sending waves of harmonic resonance through the room. Equipment trembled, lights flickered, and for an instant every person present felt a strange sensation, as if their consciousness had momentarily expanded beyond the confines of their bodies. "They're communicating," Emery whispered, adjusting her scanning equipment. "Not just with each other, but outward." Julian's comm unit crackled to life with Director Hartman's tense voice. "Commander, we're detecting unusual activity from the Voidwalker vessel. Energy signatures matching those in the observation deck. What's happening down there?" Before Julian could respond, a new alarm sounded, the proximity warning for unscheduled arrivals. "Director," Julian replied, moving swiftly to the observation window. "I think we're about to have company." Through the reinforced glass, he watched as space itself seemed to ripple, and 3 more Voidwalker vessels materialized in the distance, their obsidian hulls absorbing starlight like cosmic predators. "They felt it," Orion said, his melodic voice tight with what Julian now recognized as fear. "The Council of Elders has come." Dr. Emery Khatri had devoted her life to understanding the past. As one of Earth's premier xenoarchaeologists, she had excavated ruins on 17 different worlds, meticulously piecing together the histories of civilizations long extinct. Now, as she studied the ancient artifact before her, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was witnessing history in the making. The artifact, a crystalline dodecahedron recovered from ruins on Proxima Centauri b, had been inert for the 3 years since its discovery. But in the 12 hours since Lydia's blood bond with Nyx, it had begun to pulse with the same energy signature that emanated from the pair. "It's responding to them," she murmured, carefully rotating the artifact in its containment field. Beneath, its translucent surface, geometric patterns shifted and flowed, patterns identical to those now marking both Lydia and Nyx. The Hemera Station's secondary lab provided Emery the privacy she needed. While Julian managed the diplomatic crisis unfolding with the arrival of the Voidwalker Council, she had slipped away with the artifact, driven by an intuition that it might hold answers. Her tablet pinged with an incoming transmission. The screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Professor Thomas Rivera, her former mentor and now director of the Xenoarchaeological Institute on Earth. "Emery," he greeted her, his voice gruff with concern. "I received your data packet. Are you certain these readings are accurate?" "Completely," she confirmed, angling her camera to show the pulsing artifact. "And there's more. The patterns match ancient symbols we found at over 30 different archaeological sites across the galaxy. Sites we previously believed had no connection to each other." Thomas's expression darkened. "Sites that all show evidence of sudden abandonment approximately 10,000 years ago. Exactly when the Voidwalkers claim their great transition occurred." Emery connected the dots aloud. "Thomas, I don't think these were different civilizations. I think they were all connected to the Voidwalkers somehow. That would rewrite our entire understanding of galactic history, Thomas said, the academic in him clearly battling with skepticism. The implications. A sudden flare from the artifact interrupted him. The crystalline structure was now rotating on its own within the containment field, its facets emitting beams of light that projected star maps onto the laboratory walls. "Are you seeing this?" Emery breathed, panning her camera around the room. "Those constellations." Thomas leaned closer to his screen. "They don't match any known star patterns." Because they're not current, Emery realized, her archaeological training kicking in. These are star configurations from 10,000 years ago. The projections shifted, zooming in on specific star systems, highlighting planets with pulsing markers. On each world, holographic representations of structures appeared, temples, observatories, and what appeared to be nexus points of some kind of energy network. "My God," Thomas whispered. "It's showing us their distribution. The Voidwalkers weren't just visitors to these worlds, they were guardians of some kind of interstellar network." The laboratory door slid open and Julian entered, his face grim. Behind him followed a tall, regal Voidwalker whom Emery had never seen before. Unlike Nyx, Orion, and Lyra, this one's skin bore intricate silver patterns inlaid directly onto the obsidian surface. Markings of rank or age, Emery guessed. "Dr. Khatri," Julian said formally, "this is Elder Cassiopeia of the Voidwalker High Council. She has requested to see the artifact." The way Julian emphasized requested told Emery everything she needed to know about the balance of power in this situation. "Professor Rivera, I'll have to continue this conversation later," she said, ending the transmission before turning to face the Voidwalker Elder. "It's an honor, Elder Cassiopeia. I'm Dr. Emery Khatri, xenoarchaeologist." Cassiopeia's silver eyes, fixed on the floating artifact which had intensified its projection since her arrival. "You possess a resonance matrix," she stated, her multi-toned voice ringing with authority. "Such objects were supposed to have been destroyed during the Great Transition. We found it in ruins on Proxima Centauri b," Emery explained, watching the Elder's reaction carefully. "It was dormant until today." "Until the aberration occurred," Cassiopeia corrected, moving closer to the artifact. "Until one of our kind formed a forbidden bond with a human." Julian stepped forward, protective instinct evident in his stance. "Dr. Winters acted to save Nyx's life. There was no malicious intent." "Intent is irrelevant," Cassiopeia replied coldly. "What matters is consequence. Do you understand what has been awakened?" Before either human could respond, the artifact pulsed strongly, projecting a new image. A galaxy-spanning network of energy connections, with the Voidwalker homeworld at its center. Then, gradually, the connections began to fade, one by one, until only isolated points remained. "The severance," Cassiopeia whispered, an unmistakable note of sorrow in her voice. "When we chose isolation over destruction." "Destruction by whom?" Emery asked gently, her archaeologist's curiosity overcoming her apprehension. Cassiopeia's gaze shifted from the artifact to Emery, ancient wisdom and burden evident in those silver depths. "By those who hunt in the void between galaxies. Those who feed on the very essence of consciousness. We called them the Umbra." Julian exchanged a glance with Emery. "And the bond between Lydia and Nyx, it somehow threatens to expose your people to these Umbra again?" "Worse," Cassiopeia said, her voice resonating with ancient dread. "It threatens to reawaken abilities we deliberately suppressed for the safety of all sentient life." She gestured to the artifact. "This matrix contains but a fraction of the knowledge we once possessed, knowledge that could destroy civilizations if misused." Emery's scientific mind was racing, connecting archaeological evidence with this new information. "The ruins we've found, they weren't abandoned. They were deliberately dismantled. Your people were erasing your own presence from the galaxy. Protect you," Cassiopeia confirmed. "All of you. The Umbra are drawn to certain energies. Energies our kind naturally emanate when we exist in our true form, and the nectar suppresses these energies, Julian concluded. It's not just sustenance, it's a biological dampener. It was never meant to be permanent, Cassiopeia admitted, her posture softening slightly. Merely a temporary measure until the Umbra passed beyond our galaxy's reach. But generations became millennia, and the truth was eventually hidden even from ourselves. The Council of Elders has guarded fragments of this knowledge, passing it down through the ages. The artifact suddenly flared brightly, its projections shifting to show a new image. Lydia and Nyx, their forms intertwined in the energy field, but now magnified to show the molecular level of their bond. Human DNA and Voidwalker cellular structures were merging in ways that defied scientific understanding, creating hybrid patterns that pulsed with stable, contained energy. Emery gasped as realization struck her. The human element, it's acting as a stabilizer, isn't it? Creating a form of energy the Umbra can't detect or consume. Cassiopeia stared at the projection, and for the first time Emery detected something beyond fear in the Elder's demeanor, a flicker of hope, quickly suppressed. A theory, she said dismissively. One that the Council cannot risk testing. But that's exactly what's happening right now, Julian pointed out. Lydia and Nyx have already formed this bond. If you're right about these Umbra, wouldn't they have been drawn here already? The process is not complete, Cassiopeia said, moving, to deactivate the artifact. The full awakening has yet to occur. That is why I have come. To prevent catastrophe before it can begin. By doing what? Julian demanded, his hand instinctively moving to the pulse pistol at his hip. Cassiopeia's expression became unreadable. The Council has voted. For the safety of all, the bond must be severed. And if that is not possible... She left the sentence unfinished, but her meaning was clear. You can't be serious, Emery protested. You're talking about killing them. I am talking about preserving billions of lives across thousands of worlds, Cassiopeia countered, her voice resonating with the weight of ancient responsibility. What? Are 2 lives against such a calculation? Julian's comm unit suddenly buzzed with an emergency alert. Director Hartman's voice came through, panic evident in her normally composed tone. Commander, medical emergency in the observation deck. The energy field around Dr. Winters and the Voidwalker has collapsed. They're both in some kind of seizure. Medical teams are... A station-wide power fluctuation cut the transmission. The lights in the laboratory dimmed momentarily before emergency. Systems engaged. It has begun, Cassiopeia whispered, her silver eyes widening. The final phase of the awakening. Julian was already moving toward the door. Whatever you're planning, Elder, it stops now. Those are people in there, not some cosmic chess pieces. You don't understand what forces you're tampering with, Commander. Cassiopeia called after him. Some secrets were buried for a reason. Julian paused at the threshold, looking back at the Voidwalker Elder with steely determination. Maybe the reason wasn't good enough. As Julian raced toward the observation deck, Emery found herself alone with Cassiopeia and the softly pulsing artifact. Against all archaeological protocol, she reached out and grasped the crystalline matrix, feeling its energy harmonize with her own consciousness. You know there's more to this story, don't you? She challenged the Elder. Something you're not telling us. Cassiopeia regarded her with ancient eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. There is always more to history than what is recorded, Dr. Khatri. The question is whether we are prepared to face the truth. All of us. The artifact in Emery's hands suddenly projected one final image. A vision of Voidwalkers and humans standing together, surrounded by a harmonized energy field that formed a shield around dozens of worlds. And beyond that shield, in the darkness between galaxies, countless eyes watching, waiting. It's not about hiding anymore, is it? Emery realized. It's about finding a new way to fight. Cassiopeia's silence was answer enough. Whispers of the Void Professor Zara Okafor had spent her career deciphering the untranslatable. As the foremost xenolinguist in the Sol system, she had developed communication systems for species that experienced time non-linearly, interpreted pheromone languages from methane-breathing entities, and mapped consciousness-sharing rituals of hive-mind collectives. Yet nothing in her 30 years of study had prepared her for the challenge currently before her, interpreting the shared dreamscape of a human Voidwalker bond. Their brain patterns are perfectly synchronized now, she observed, studying the neural mapping displays in the HFY station's medical bay. The facility had been locked down, accessible only to essential personnel since the collapse of the energy field surrounding Lydia and Nix 8 hours ago. Both beings lay motionless on adjacent diagnostic beds, their only signs of life the steady rise and fall of their chests and the occasional ripple of luminescence beneath their skin, a feature that, disturbingly, Lydia now shared with her Voidwalker counterpart. Synchronized but not identical, Dr. Tenzin Rivera noted, adjusting the sensitive equipment monitoring their patients. The station's chief medical officer had been working tirelessly alongside Zara since being summoned on an emergency basis. Lydia's neural architecture is adapting, becoming more complex, while Nix's is stabilizing into new configurations. They're meeting in the middle, Zara murmured, her dark eyes tracking the flowing data patterns, creating something entirely new. Commander Blackwood entered, his face drawn with exhaustion. Behind him followed Dr. Emery Khatri, clutching what appeared to be an ancient crystalline artifact. "Any change?" Julian asked, his concern for Lydia poorly disguised beneath his professional demeanor. "They've stabilized," Tenzin replied. "Physically, they're stronger than ever. Neural activity suggests they're engaged in some form of deep communication." "With each other?" Julian questioned. "With each other and—" Zara hesitated, unsure how to explain what she'd been observing. "Something else. Something beyond them both." Emery stepped forward, carefully placing the artifact on a nearby console. "The resonance matrix has been responding to them, projecting images, star maps, historical records. I believe it's connected to whatever consciousness they're experiencing." Julian's expression darkened. "Elder Cassiopeia claims this connection poses a threat to galactic security. The Voidwalker Council is demanding we terminate the bond, by any means necessary." "Terminate?" Tenzin's voice rose in medical outrage. "We have no idea what severing such a bond might do to either of them. It could kill them both." "That may be exactly what the Council wants," Emery said quietly. "They're afraid of what Lydia and Nix represent, the truth about their species' past." A soft musical tone emanated from the monitoring equipment. On the neural displays, new patterns emerged, coherent, structured, like a language being formed in real time. "They're trying to communicate with us," Zara realized, quickly adjusting her equipment. "I need to enhance the signal, create a translation matrix." "Can we reach them?" Julian asked, moving closer to Lydia's bedside. "Let them know. What's happening?" "Not directly," Zara replied, her fingers flying across the interface. "But I might be able to interpret what they're experiencing. Create a bridge." Her words were cut short as the artifact suddenly flared to life, rising from the console to hover in midair. Energy pulsed from its crystalline facets, creating a holographic projection that filled the center of the medical bay, a three-dimensional representation of what appeared to be memories, or perhaps visions, flowing through the connected minds of Lydia and Nix. "Recording all feeds," Emery said, activating her research protocols. "This could be our only chance to understand what they're experiencing." The images shifted and flowed, vast cities of crystal and light, populated by early Voidwalkers who moved freely between energy and matter states. Ancient Earth, where primitive humans gazed in wonder at beings of light who guided their development without interference. Dozens of worlds across the galaxy, each home to unique civilizations, all connected through a network of Voidwalker guardians. "They were protectors," Zara whispered, interpreting the symbolic language embedded in the visions. "Guardians of consciousness itself, nurturing the development of sentient life throughout the galaxy." The visions darkened, showing vast shadow-like entities moving between stars, drawn to the energy signatures of the Voidwalker network. Worlds fell into darkness, civilizations collapsed, and the Voidwalkers themselves were hunted across the cosmos. The Umbra, Emery recognized from Cassiopeia's description, predators of consciousness. The holographic narrative continued, showing the desperate decision of the Voidwalker Council 10,000 years ago. To suppress their own nature, to hide, in plain sight, to develop the nectar that would dampen their energy signatures and sever their connections to other species. They sacrificed what they were to protect everyone else, Julian said softly, understanding dawning on his face. They chose to diminish themselves rather than abandon their role as guardians. The final sequence of images showed something unexpected: human DNA intertwining with Voidwalker energy patterns, creating stable configurations that the shadow entities could not detect or consume. The vision expanded to show humans and Voidwalkers standing together, forming a shield around vulnerable worlds, their combined energy repelling the darkness. It's not just about awakening the Voidwalker's true nature, Zara interpreted, her voice filled with wonder. It's about a symbiosis between our species, a new kind of protection against these cosmic predators. The artifact suddenly dropped. Back to the console, its projection fading as the neural patterns on the monitors shifted again. Both Lydia and Nyx stirred simultaneously, their eyes opening in perfect synchronization. "They're back," Tenzin exclaimed, moving quickly to check their vital signs. Lydia blinked, her eyes now bearing the same silver luminescence as Nyx's, though flecked with their original brown. "Not back," she said, her voice overlaid with harmonic undertones that hadn't been there before. "We never left." Nyx sat up, her movements mirroring Lydia's exactly. "We have seen the truth," she continued, her voice completing Lydia's thought as if they were two instruments playing the same melody. "The history that was hidden from us all." Julian approached cautiously. "Lydia, are you yourself?" Both women, human and Voidwalker, smiled with identical expressions. "More myself than I've ever been," Lydia answered, "and also more than myself." "We are bonded," Nyx explained, rising from the diagnostic bed in tandem with Lydia. "Not consumed, not diminished, but enhanced. What once was taken can now be shared." "The Council will never accept this," Julian warned. "They've already made their position clear." "Then they must be shown," Lydia and Nyx said in unison, their voices resonating with newfound power. "As we have been shown." The medical bay doors slid open, revealing Elder Cassiopeia. Behind her stood 6 other Voidwalker elders, their ancient forms radiating a cold authority that filled the room. Station security personnel flanked them, weapons at ready but expressions uncertain. "The abomination must end," Cassiopeia declared, her multi-toned voice cutting through the air like a blade. "By order of the High Council." Lydia and Nyx stepped forward together, the patterns on their skin brightening in response to the elders' presence. "You have forgotten your purpose, elders," they said, their unified voice somehow both challenging and compassionate. "You have hidden the truth for so long that you believe the lie. We have preserved our people." Another elder, his silver markings identifying him as Rigel, countered, "Protected countless worlds from the Umbra by our sacrifice." "A sacrifice that was never meant to be permanent," Lydia and Nyx replied, reaching out to touch the resonance matrix. The artifact responded immediately, rising once more to project the ancient memories. "You were meant to find a solution, not hide in fear for eternity." The elders watched the projections, their typically impassive faces showing cracks of emotion, recognition, denial, grief. "The human element changes everything," Zara interjected, stepping forward with the neural data displayed on her tablet. "The bond isn't just awakening Voidwalker abilities, it's stabilizing them, creating an energy signature the Umbra cannot detect or consume." "Theoretical," Elder Cassiopeia dismissed, though with less conviction than before. "Untested." "Then test it," Lydia and Nyx challenged, moving to stand directly before the council. "Feel what we have become." Before anyone could intervene, the bonded pair reached out, placing their hands on Elder Cassiopeia's shoulders. The contact sent a visible wave of energy rippling through the Voidwalker elder's form, her silver eyes widening in shock. For a tense moment, no one moved. Julian's hand hovered over his weapon, unsure whether to intervene. Zara held her breath, watching the neural monitors as they registered a third consciousness briefly joining the bond. Then Cassiopeia stepped back, trembling. The rigid authority had vanished from her bearing, replaced by something that looked remarkably like awe. "It is true," she whispered, her voice stripped of its multi-toned resonance, suddenly sounding vulnerable and ancient. "The merging path. We thought it lost forever.